We will call to order the March 13th edition of the El Segundo Planning Commission. So we'll start with a roll call.
Commissioner Christian,
Present.
Vice Chair Inga,
Here.
and Chair Magai.
Present.
We have a quorum.
And then we will, as always, start with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you please all stand and follow me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, as always, we start with any public communication that is not related to an agendized item. Do we have anyone that here to speak on an item that is not on the agenda? Yes. Okay, seeing none, we will move on to the consent calendar. The first item is to approve the February 13th Planning Commission meeting minutes. Do I hear a motion?
I present a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting.
Second.
And I'll take votes. Commissioner Christian,
Aye.
Vice Chair Inga,
Aye.
and Chair Magai.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0.
And I should add, this is on the consent calendar, but we are going to take one, each one at a time, just in case there are people that want to speak on each individual item. The second item is a request to expand the areas of on-site sale and consumption of beer, wine, and distilled spirits at an existing restaurant, Brewport Tap House. Do we have a presentation on this, or? Okay.
We do. Yes.
It is on
Oh,
consent, so if you want to maybe check with the public, if there are any folks that wish to comment on this, but if not, you could just approve it as consent, or you could pull it and have staff do a presentation.
Do we have any people in the audience that would like to comment on this specific item? Okay, please.
So we'll start with the staff presentation.
Yeah, so it'll be pulled, and then we'll start with the staff
Okay, we will
presentation.
pull it, and then do the staff presentation.
So open up public communications, and then that's when you guys can take the podium. Yeah. Okay. Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, and Commissioners. I will be presenting the item in front of you, which is for Brewport Tap House Environmental Assessment Number 1166, Revision B, for Administrative Use Permit 1611. This is located at 200 to 204 Main Street. So the existing restaurant is specifically located in the Grand Avenue district within our downtown specific plan, where restaurants are permitted by right. The original AUP allowed the restaurant to do its operations under a Type 47 ABC license, which allows alcohol to be served and consumed in the indoor and outdoor existing dining areas that the restaurant has. Brewport Tap House is going to continue operating under an ABC Type 47 license, and they are not proposing change to the hours of operations. However, the hours of operations for the new area that they're adding, which is the axe throwing cage, is going to be limited to 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Sunday. The AUP revision allows the modification of the floor plan and location of alcohol service to include the new proposed outdoor accessory area, which is the red clouded area on the right side. The proposed area is an additional amenity to the restaurant, and no additional modifications are being proposed to the existing outdoor dining areas or indoor dining areas. The new outdoor accessory area will only be utilized for axe throwing, and it's an accessory amenity that they have. Condition number 5 in our conditions of approval with the approval letter attached to the staff report prohibits food service, dining tables, and seating in that rear area, which is 120 square feet. And between the area of the axe throwing cage and the storage shed that you see in that picture that's white, we're also prohibiting the use of like tables and chairs for dining. We did receive public comments regarding the item, and it specifically was tailored to the noise concerns. Staff did conduct a noise reading to establish ambient noise level. The reading did conclude that the ambient noise level goes up to 68 decibels, while the noise emitting from the site when the axe throwing cage is in use goes up to 72.9 decibels. The code does allow for an increase to noise standards based upon the duration of the noise. For example, a consistent noise that is greater than 30 minutes is not allowed an increase in noise. However, noise duration of less than 5 minutes is allowed a permitted increase of 15 decibels, whereas a noise duration of less than 1 minute, is permitted an increase of 20 decibels. As previously stated, the axe throwing cage emits a noise level up to 72.9, which is in compliance with the El Segundo Municipal Code noise regulations. The proposed modification will not create any new impacts that would not normally associate with the operation of an existing restaurant, and is going to continue to be in compliance with the downtown specific plan zone. Staff has reviewed the proposed modification and findings and is recommending for the Planning Commission to receive and file the director's decision to approve the AUP modification to allow alcohol to be served and consumed in the new outdoor accessory area. That concludes my presentation, and the applicant is present to answer any questions as well.
I can start. So the noise readings, where were the noise readings done? At other hatchet throwing places?
No, so the noise readings were done at the site and with at the residential properties behind them through the alley access. So we did readings in the middle of the alley in the middle of the alley, right directly behind the axe cage. We try to get as close to the property line for the residents right behind it and the corner residents on Franklin as well.
While there was axe throwing?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
We did both, while there was axe throwing and no axe throwing.
Okay.
Yes, Chairman Guy, and it's important to note that these measurements were taken from the outside of the property, and it was all in line with the noise measurement that's established by code.
And the closest sensitive receptor is right across the alleyway, right? Literally, okay. And so it's right probably from that point. Okay.
Yeah. I do have videos. I'm gonna go to the next slide just so you guys could kind of see. I'm gonna mute them because they are a little bit, it's a little loud playing through here, but if you wanna hear them, I can play them. I just kind of wanna show you from where they were taken if you'd like.
Okay, yeah, that would be good. So right at that entryway?
Yes.
Right at that, okay.
Yes. There is also the one directly behind the axe throwing cage. So if I press play, you're gonna see that it's directly behind from the middle of the alley. There's also the other noise reading that we did at the corner of the other residence that's there. And it was like kind of between, they have kind of like a carport situation happening, so I tried to get as close as I could to that wall. And then we also did at the corner without like any axe throwing happening.
Okay.
Jasmine, is this a brand new activity or this is something that is already going on?
It would be a new activity permitted for alcohol services in that area.
Yeah, and it's important to note too that they had installed it within the last couple of years, but because of the issue of adding this new use and we were trying to also work with the property owner to see how he wanted to handle the outdoor dining that was there previously. It took some time to finally get exactly what he wanted to do and whether he wanted to continue to offer this amenity. And so based on his proposal, which is now before you, we had determined that, there would be a modification to the floor plan which was previously approved through the AUP, and that floor plan established certain areas where alcohol can be served and consumed. And now that he ended up removing that outdoor dining that, in essence, encompassed the entire parking lot, that was removed. So, and we had received some complaints in the past about a lot of the noise from customers. So I think that's been addressed. There was some concerns about the axe throwing activity, because that had been going on until we told them that, they needed to stop and go through the appropriate avenues to legalize that, which is this process. So yeah, so we have at least had some experience with that axe throwing activity.
And I also wanted to,
Oh,
I
go
also
ahead.
wanted to point out that we did route the application to police department, and the police department was not, they didn't have any concerns regarding this additional amenity for the restaurant.
My questions are, when it had the outdoor dining that was in that area back there, did we have noise readings during those peak times when people were complaining?
It's my understanding that they didn't, because that purpose for the outdoor dining was during COVID time,
Was what?
during COVID. That's why it was permitted. So no noise readings were done during that time, from my
Okay.
understanding.
All right. So the baseline that we're using from 62 to 70 something is without outdoor dining?
That's correct, because that's not what they're proposing.
I'm just wondering, like, how much louder it is with axe throwing versus when it had the noise from outdoor dining. And we don't have a way of knowing that because we didn't measure during that time, which is fine. My other question was any, might have seemed intrusive, but I'm wondering if there was any thought given to measuring the axe throwing noise from further, like within the boundaries of the properties that were behind there, like to find out like what is it that they're hearing when the axe throwing is going on?
So this was offered.
Okay.
We obviously can't just go on private property unless we get permission, or if there's an immediate threat to life safety, staff has some authorities they can exercise. But it was offered to take the readings from inside, which were not provided.
Oh, okay. That would have been interesting.
If I may add, that was with code enforcement.
With who?
Code enforcement. Yeah, not planning stuff specifically.
I would have wanted to know how that went. Okay, it's difficult because I know that the way we receive the sound can be very different depending on where you are. And, just like when we had a lot of noise complaints in the city from concerts at SoFi, which is like miles away, like the way it hits you is completely out of anyone's imagination when it was going on. So I was just wondering, like, how does it sound to the people who are living with that sound, who may not like this new permitted use, since there do seem to be concerns. Maybe they'll share those insights with us when they come talk to us.
Okay, so I think, thank you for the presentation, and I think it's a good time to open public comment on the matter. The first right of speaking always goes to the project applicant, so if is present.
My name is John Bassick. I own the apartment at 205 Standard Street.
Do we have that project applicant? Yes, yeah. Okay.
Oh.
Sorry, we always give the first comment to the applicant whenever appropriate. Yeah. Sorry.
Hi, I'm Christian Krieger. I own the business, Brewport Tap House. This is Matt McCullough.
And I own Hatchet Hound, the axe throwing.
So just to start off, we're coming up on 4 years of him being there. It's an independent thing. He books the parties, and we feed the people. So that's the relationship between us. It's a separate business. It only happens when it's an actual booked event and they are there supervising. So it's not just, a free-for-all thing. It's an actual booked scenario, which they handle on their own, and again, we handle the food thing. So it's been going on for 4 years, because we had the, dining out there since we all got shut down, and now it's back to being a parking lot. That particular area is kind of dead space. It doesn't take up any parking at all. We're completely back to where we were, so it just fills up the dead space. Tony back here, we've been, casual friends for 20-plus years. I completely understand, and he's got my personal phone number, and he texts me, and this and that, and we've always been trying to work with it, and I understand he's the closest person to it, but we've done a lot to mitigate it. I mean, instead of 10 o'clock, which is the usual rule for outdoor noise, we volunteered the 8 p.m. as kind of like a nice compromise, for outdoor activities with the neighbors and stuff like that. So aside from that, Matt will discuss all the things that he's done to mitigate the actual sound from before to now, to mitigate so that it's not as loud.
So basically, we've taken the existing structure that we had before, and we took that down, we built a new structure, brought that in. We actually faced it toward the alley now, so it wasn't facing toward the wall, which would act as sometimes like an echo. So now it faces the alley. Then we took the entire structure and then encased that in rubber. So it's basically, it's like half-inch rubber that hangs down. So when the axe hits it, it actually just deadens the sound completely because it's not hitting anything solid. And then took the targets and made them what they call end grain. So it's 4x6, flipped on its end, 5 inches thick. And then that basically is also like a deadening sound. So when the axe hits it, which is the actual target. So that it simply takes all of the noise and reduces it. So then when Jasmine came out and did the actual readings, that's what she was getting. So I was throwing them while she was doing it, hitting everything I could, including anything that was solid, and she was right behind it. So that's a decibel reading you're getting with me actually trying to make noise. So I was throwing it hard in comparison to what we normally do, which is we don't have anybody throw it hard because that's not how safety happens with axe throwing. So that being said, that's what we've done. We've tried to work with everyone because we want to be something that's going to be fun, obviously, for all the customers that come in, but also, friendly to all the neighbors that are around us. So, as far as I know, we haven't had any complaints, and I understand, his complaint in the beginning. It was also a lot of noise going on just from typical people out there, in the beer garden and everything else, but now it's really reduced, and it's only the parties that come in. So, we've done all we can to really mitigate the sound.
Okay.
What's the frequency of the parties that, how successful has it been in terms of booking events?
Well, it's like anything else, right? So, in certain times, like, October, November, December, it's going to be the busiest because that's when holiday parties are coming in. So we primarily work with reservations. So we're much more of a corporate entity. So, we go out to all the major companies that are around here. We bring them in. It's a team building thing. So that's sort of where we focus. But every once in a while, we'll have smaller groups too. But it's going to range anywhere from like 5 people to 50 people. But that's the range. But now, the interesting part is, so there's never really going to be any more than, I would say, 20 people at a time just because of the space, that it's much smaller now. So that's sort of what we're dealing with. So it's going to be a limited amount of people as well.
But no sense of the frequency?
The frequency, it's going to range. So I'd say on a really busy month, you might have like 30 reservations. And then it might go down to, say, 12 to 15 on a slow month. And that's going to be the frequency.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
Oh, I thought he was going to ask my other question. Like, what are popular times or,
So
weekends?
popular
weekends
times are
during the
actually
week?
earlier in the day, which you know, I think would be a benefit. So we're busiest because we're mostly corporate.
So happy hour-ish?
Yeah, so we're more like from like noon to 6 is when we're gonna have most of what we do. And then, you know, every once in a while, we'll have the later ones, which is why we also, you know, agreed to the compromise and took it down to 8 o'clock to try to appease the neighbors, so.
Does that reduction in the available hours from 10 to 8, looking at your past reservation patterns, are you losing?
I mean, it's gonna slow it down for us a little bit, but, you know, we're willing to make a compromise. You know, I mean, that's just part of doing business.
All right,
Yeah.
thanks.
Have you ever tried to face it the other way? Just because, you know, just looking at it, the axe throwing is closer to, because it's the back is to the alley. Have you tried it the other way to see if it is quieter?
Yeah, so the way that's designed, the way everything is there with the space remaining, we wouldn't be able to do that, just because of the mechanicals that go to the building and all of that, and the shed that's there, all of that, you know, all of that are the inner workings of the actual bar itself. So the leftover space was where we were. And, you know, and quite honestly, when you're throwing and the way we've built this, it really, really does not make much sound at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then does the, I don't know if our noise consultants, whoever did the readings, did they come up with a conclusion? Is it the voices that are louder or the axe hitting the wall that is louder? What is driving up that? I guess,
This is a
14.9?
question for staff, I presume?
Yeah.
Oh. Are we done with the, maybe we can finish and then if you have.
Well, no, let me, okay.
But we
let me-
can come back to that.
Okay. And then, do you guys, first off, do you allow walk-ins, or are they all reservation?
It's all reservation based
Okay.
there, yeah.
Okay, and then, is there signage like that says, you know, neighbors are nearby, please keep it down to the best of your ability, something along those lines?
Well, I mean, you know, we're there in person, so literally nothing happens without a coach there, taking you through the entire time, going through safety, going through noise, going through all these things. Yeah, so I
Okay.
mean, you know, we're constantly there, like grown-up babysitters.
Okay, well, I mean, even some signage would be good, like, you know, as a form of mitigation.
Yeah, I mean, we could always add it.
Okay, and then, did you have any other questions?
no.
Before we move on?
You asked my questions.
Okay, good. Good. So, thank you for coming to speak. I think we have other public commenters that are
Okay.
that want to speak on this topic.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, does anyone else want to comment on this item, please?
Hi, everybody. My name is Tony Martini, and I am a next-door neighbor of this axe throwing presentation they're going to do. Brewport is basically parking lot down street from, I mean, just down the window from me. I'm in the alley of the, between Main and the Standard Street, so I'm looking at the Brewport parking lot. This axe throwing been going on for quite a while. First of all, I get up 4 o'clock in the morning. I get home at 6 at night. Many times I get home, the axe throwing is already starting. I would love to come home and sit down, have a peaceful dinner, relax. I can't do that. I had to turn the TV right on, close my windows to muffle the noise. And it's not much of noise of thumping of the axe hitting the wall. It's people screaming, yelling, just like being on a tailgate party at the Pittsburgh Steelers fan. They're screaming and yelling constantly. And sometimes they'll go late. When I complain, let's say they have permit to 10 o'clock at night. Quite a few times they do go to 10 o'clock at night. I like to go to bed 9 o'clock because I get up early. I did discuss with these people to see if they can do something about it. Brewport has 8,000 square foot restaurant, 180 square foot little extra thing that can be located indoor. They can have it all night long as far as I'm concerned. And I'm representing the apartment building with 4 families that complain about this noise. And you ask, Mr. Mark, you ask how does the So it's not much of the thing, but the screaming and yelling. This is for me. That's pretty down the 50 feet from my window, bedroom in my kitchen. So I'm just asking committee to reconsider this and maybe relocate this or whatever needs to be done, because as it is, it's just not. It's not right. Like I like to get up in the morning, go to work fresh, but I just can't go to sleep sometime, or can't even have peaceful dinner. So, thank you for listening.
Thank you.
My name's John Bassick. I represent the apartment that's directly adjacent to Tony. My question is, this is a parking lot. Is there allowed to have alcohol in the parking lot?
I think that's what we're considering today, right? Correct? I mean,
So that would be a question for staff. We can come back to that if you'd like.
Because in my mind, it's a parking lot. There shouldn't be alcoholic beverages back there. And of course, you know, the axe throwing is one thing, but I think Tony's got a good point. That could be located inside, or it could be moved in a different way to mitigate the noise. But the main problem is the people cheering and yelling. We understand it's a group building activity. But I know during COVID, we tried to make everything work so that, you know, they could have parties and have weddings and do all sorts of things outside. But now that COVID's over and that's a parking lot, I don't understand why we would have alcohol there in that area. Because that, when people are drinking, that makes a lot more noise too. And then I don't recall getting notified about the noise about having a test. No one contacted me. And I'm the owner of that apartment building. So that wasn't done. That's all I've got.
thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to comment from the public?
I have a follow-up question anyway.
For him. Yeah, yes, please.
And I have a follow-up question for him too. All right, just real quick, we're 5,000 square feet. Matt and I went through a lot of trouble to figure out which way and sound mitigation and all that sort of stuff. There is no space inside to do it. That's not even the realm of possibility. So it's there or it's not, but obviously we've gone through a lot of trouble finding the spot that doesn't take up parking and all that sort of stuff. I don't know when that recording was made, and was it a year ago or a month ago or whatever, but yeah, people talk and they have fun. That's what we do. And just like if people are talking and going out to their car and all that sort of stuff, it just happens. That's part of it. But again, it's never not chaperoned. So if people were getting too loud, too gregarious, again, that could have been who knows what time, but they're there to like say, hey guys, you're getting a little loud. So there's always somebody right there guiding the parties and stuff like that. So again, there is no other options. We can keep people under control, and we're not going to tell people not to have fun because that's what we do. As far as the alcohol in the parking lot, I mean, for 4 years, 5 years now, we had alcohol out there, the entire thing. So now we can make that legal. It's just a matter of, sending the ABC the new boundaries. And it's really not, we don't serve the alcohol out there. They're getting it from inside. They usually go inside, they have food, they drink and stuff, and then they come out and do it. And we just put it in plastic cups and we just let them finish their drinks out there. So we don't have a bar out there right now. They're not serving it, they just have the drinks that they had from inside. And it's not an issue making it legal with the ABC. We just have to send them a new map like you've been seeing up here. Okay?
Hold on.
did you have a question? No. So, I have to confess, I've never been in Brewport, so I have no idea what it looks like, what happens there. So, I guess my question is sort of, is it like a sports bar type setup? TVs and
there's
Super Bowl
there's
parties
TVs, and we
World
have a bar,
Series?
and we do the original concept was self-serve beer and wine with tablets and wristbands, and you just kind of keeps track of all that sort of stuff. We were so popular with parties and stuff that we expanded and took over the entire old post office for parties. So it's really about parties. Like today, we had a TikTok party at noon that was with them, and they took over inside, and it was great business. So it's all about parties and stuff like that. We do the water polo thing, annual stuff, and things like that.
Would there be other activities in that outside area that doesn't include axe throwing? Like if there were Super Bowl parties or World Series parties
Well,
or
we have-
NBA finals
we
parties?
we have used the back in the past when we were smaller for anniversary parties, Oktoberfest.
Does it happen now, though?
No, because now we are bigger,
Okay.
but there is no place to put acts inside, so that's just not part of it.
No, I was trying to think if there's a differential between the cheering that I'm hearing when someone hits a bullseye with an axe versus LeBron James hits a game-winning shot and there's an NBA Finals game on. Is it any louder? Would it be louder?
It would be less because there's less people.
Less people.
Well, we
actually-
have, our capacity is 200 inside.
Okay, so it'd be less noise.
Because
During-
instead of 200 people cheering for
during
LeBron
finals
on a thing,
versus-
it would be 20 people
All right.
happy,
so-
happy
okay.
that, or 10, because maybe 10 are on the other team and not happy that he got it bullseye.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just trying to think through, like, is this...
Again, in the
Yeah,
summer, the sun's still up at 8.
Yeah.
I understand he has to get up early, and I understand he's closed. That's why we've been working with him for 7 years, trying to make him happy and
let me ask
compromising.
one more question, not to cut you off, but if the sound levels that the gentleman projected from whatever event that might have been that sounded like axe throwing,
It was.
if you had been there supervising or if you had been there, would you have thought that was too loud? Like, was that too much merriment? Would you have said, hey, guys, keep that down? Would that have been over the line? Or would that have been, like, expected?
I don't know where that word is.
If you guys, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
if the
please come up
commissioner is
to the
just gonna
mic so we
engage
can-
with the members of the public, please ask them to speak.
He'll
at the mic,
clarify
sorry.
where it came from,
Yeah,
I'm
sorry,
sure.
I just don't know where it was taken from.
Okay.
So, and I don't know when it was taken either. So it could have been 3 years ago, for all I know.
Before
Yeah,
the sound mitigation.
Yeah.
But I guess what I'm not hearing a lot of axes. I'm hearing a lot of cheering. So I'm not necessarily thinking axes are the problem. It's the cheering.
At first, his problem was the thumb,
Okay,
the axe.
I'll go with it.
Then, when we got, then it went.
It went to another thing. So it's just
Yes,
That became the problem.
people outdoors hanging out by his gate. Okay, all right.
yeah.
I don't know if you have anything to add.
Oh,
Chair, I just want to ask you to facilitate a little bit of organization and calling the public for public discussion.
My bad.
That's okay, I just want to, yeah, Joaquin, if you want to.
Yeah, we might want to allow a rebuttal since we allowed the applicant to come
Yes.
back up, but we may want to
so-
put it
I
off
think
after.
we'll
so-
probably close.
Cut it off. Yeah, that's
We
fine.
don't want to get into like a back
So
and
the
forth
tape that
here.
I'm talking about, it was done after modification. So
sorry?
this was done at 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
But when, I guess is the
That was
question.
done March 2nd,
Okay, so like 2 weeks ago.
5 p.m.
All right. So would that have been too loud?
This one was done on March 2nd also.
All right.
So this was after modification done.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. We heard
I
it.
just want to make clear that this was done recently, and I have some 2-3 years ago. So obviously this was going on before they even applied for the
Sure.
permit illegally.
Sure. Well,
Yeah.
I don't.
So I just want to make sure that there is not any mix-up. When was this done?
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, this
Thank
was
you
done a
for
few days
clarifying.
ago.
Thank you.
I have a question for Mr. Krieger. If you come to the mic, please. Are you planning to add a bar in the parking lot if ABC is approved?
No. In fact, during the pandemic, we did have a bar, and I just gave it to our neighbors at patio. So there is no bar, there will not be any serving out there unless it's a special event during the day, like I said. But now that we're twice as big as we used to, we don't really need it. So it's really just filling up that space, and like I said, it's been 4 years, and it's developed, and it's kind of like it'd be a severe ding to our business to have it be gone. It's a big building, and it costs a lot of money, and we're still struggling, but we're improving.
Thank
Great,
you.
thank you. So,
I would just add one thing, which is, you know, in everything we just talked about, we would definitely be willing to put a signage up, you know, letting everyone know that there's going to be a certain sound level that we want to maintain. And then also, just for clarity, the space, you know, as I said, we'll bring in parties that are large, but there'll never be any more than 20 people outside because there's not enough space to hold that. So we work with the bar. So they basically either eating, drinking inside, they come out, they throw, and then they go back inside. So like today, TikTok was like 45 people. At most, I think we had maybe 12 people out there at a time, just because the space is mitigated and it's very limited. So, you know, that's, from a sound standpoint, it's definitely going to drop the sound. But
Okay.
we'll definitely put signage up too. We're willing to do that.
okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Are there any other, I guess, new public commenters that are here, or should we? Okay, I guess we can close public comment and get to some of the questions that we had asked, that we'd been asked to hold. So one of the questions I have for staff is that, so does the axe throwing need a permit on its own?
No, the consideration tonight is the serving of alcohol or
Yeah.
the consumption of alcohol in that 200 square foot? 120, sorry.
Yeah,
120
that's kind
square
of
foot.
my point, but the axe throwing does not need a permit on its own.
That's right.
Okay. And I think my other question that you'd asked me to hold was the sound coming from the axe throwing or from the people talking? I think that we got to that answer. So, did you guys have any other questions for staff?
I don't.
Okay.
You did ask if that was a parking lot. So that particular area, the 120 square feet, it is adjacent to the parking lot, but it does not serve as a parking lot. It is not taking up existing parking spaces. It's just that space that they have outside, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So, okay, so we don't have any more questions for staff. We've heard public comment. Do you guys have any other comments or thoughts from the dais?
No?
Yeah, I guess I have some thoughts. I think that I think that I understand that what the residences are saying, waking up early in the morning, and being close. That's why I was asking, was it right across the street, if that's the closest sensitive receptor? And it is a very close sensitive receptor. It's probably, what, 40 feet, 50 feet? Whatever just going across the alley. It's a very narrow alley, so it's, so I do understand that. And I do understand that, you know, I used to do noise studies when I was younger, and, you know, going across a flat ground where it reverberates off of the concrete versus a straight line to the, because the apartments are on the second story, correct? So it has a clearer line of sight. So it's actually probably a little bit, you know, it probably resonates a little bit more than if you were at ground level, because the ground dissipates some of that noise. So I could see how that could be an issue for the residences. But I think that the business has made a lot of concessions. I think that saying that to cut it down to 8 o'clock is huge. I think that's a very big consideration. And I think that, you know, putting the noise mitigation on the surface that the axe hits is also a big consideration. Also looking at different configurations in the back, and putting the signage up, I think that that's good as well. So I think that the business has made a lot of considerations, concessions on trying to do the right thing here. So, and I did ask about if the axe throwing needs a permit itself, and it does not. So that means that can operate no matter what. So that means people are gonna go in and out, go like, I don't know, take shots or whatever it is and go back out versus just like calmly hanging out outside. So it seems like it could potentially be more of, I guess a logistical, or more of a ruckus if you're just going in and going to pound your drink, be outside, or other, instead of leisurely, hanging out outside. I think that, for me, I think because of the concessions and because of the 8 o'clock timeline, I think that something can be worked out. Is there a way that we can monitor the situation as part of the condition?
Yes, I mean, there's most certainly ways we could do this. I mean, one of the things, like you had indicated, I mean, it seems like the applicant is open to putting some signage. And then, but in terms of monitoring, in the past, there has been situations where the commission has instituted like a provisional approval, if you will, and come back in 6 months to kind of report, or sometimes 6 months or a year, it depends on what you feel comfortable with. To just report back and say, hey, this is what we've been monitoring it. Whenever we do, have noise complaints, we'll go out and respond to it, and maybe take some additional readings, at the appropriate times where we receive complaints, assuming we have the staff here available at the time, and we'd come back and report back to you with some findings, and at that point you can either approve it or revoke the approval, or add additional conditions if you want to do that.
I don't know if you have thoughts on that. I don't know about a provisional approval. I would rather do an approval that if they're acting in bad faith, then we can reconsider. I wouldn't want them to come back unless they really
Well, I mean,
had to.
yeah, I mean,
Kinda the
you could
opposite
do
of
the
that.
approval. I mean, any approval is still subject to, us responding to any complaints to ensure that they're abiding by all the conditions of approval. And if it becomes an issue, then, and we have our, code enforcement staff go out and verify that, they are, going beyond the conditions of approval, or if they are, if they're, not acting in good faith, if you, right, like you said, then we document that, and there is a point, we'd have to establish, some sort of evidence for the record that says, hey, they're operating, in a manner that does not comply with the conditions of approval. We'd come back to you with a brand new hearing to revoke their permit. What I was talking about earlier is, maybe it came across as a kind of a provisional, but I mean, you could still approve it, but with the condition that at 6 months, we come back with a report, and we could put a condition in there that says, hey, at the 6 month review, the commission has the ability at that point to, extend it for another 6 months if you wanted to still, monitor it, or, lift that requirement, or add, conditions, or worst case scenario, if there, if the need arose, to revoke it.
For my edification, can any conditional use permit be reviewed or revoked or canceled after the fact? Like, do we need to do a special condition, or if we just approve it and then it turns out it's a disaster, we could just,
I'll take that one, yeah.
Thank
So, any conditional use permit can be revoked upon due process notice in the hearing. So
Okay.
you could basically call it up if there's an ongoing record of noise complaints or things in that vein, and then there would be notice of a hearing for potential revocation. And I think Eduardo's suggestion is just sort of a light, maybe check-in. So it would be a bona fide approval, but if the commission desires, there could be a check-in within a certain amount of time. But that could also be just more informal down the line. And there's always the recourse of residents for making, filing code complaints, and those could be handled on that front as well. I just wanted to add, as far as the signage, I don't think that's an existing condition, the signage. So we may want to just get input on the scope of it, you know, be mindful of neighbors and maybe the locations. Maybe there's one before they walk out that you can see as you take your drink and walk out and join your friends. And maybe there's one outside, but just a little shape to that, I think, would be helpful.
Chair, if I may also add to the city attorney's comments, if there was going to be a reliance on simply just if they comply with the AUP, we're good to go, and we can always, if circumstances occur where we need to bring it back to the commission, we can. What would be helpful is if there's particular measurable or quantifiable standards that you consider important in terms of performance. And so if it's not captured in the conditions of approval and it's above and beyond just simply complying with the noise ordinance, it would be helpful to have specific operational standards that you consider valuable to give staff a threshold to say, okay, now we have to bring it back because we're in violation of the AUP. Otherwise, we're limited to what's in here now, which is pretty general code compliance items, and then just the code and noise ordinance in general. And so if there's other things, what I've seen in the past, maybe not here, but in other cities, there's verified nuisance complaints with PD. There's in a certain number of call volume within a given 12-month period. There's, you know, certain things like that where if they then pierce that threshold, it gives us the ability to bring it back to commission for consideration and report out of those instances. But if there was appetite for those things.
I can be convinced otherwise, but I'm confident that the applicant will make a good faith effort in doing this, and we can stick to the, I guess, the regular due process and make it more of a complaint-driven process. Unless, that's where I stand right now. I don't know if you guys, like I said, we talked out a bit. But.
I'm on the same page right now. Sure.
I'm of the opinion that I like the concept of something more measurable. I think that'd be probably helpful for both the business owners and for the residents, something to bounce against. I don't know if we need to find another measure beside, because it sounds like the gap between is pretty big without us adding anything onto it. I wouldn't want to leave it up to just noise complaint calls, because I feel like that could be manipulated. Somebody could just sit and just make a whole bunch of calls. Like every time they hear an axe, they just spam ESPD. And that would create this record. So I might pair that with something measurable. I just don't know where we would put that. Somewhere between the current standard and something else. And I don't know if the staff can help us figure that out or not. But something measurable seems like it would be the right answer.
So what is measurable in the standard process?
Decibels is the one that
So
helps us
a
enforce
measurement.
noise. And there are specific decibel levels that are permitted in the municipal code, as Jasmine has brought up. The no more than 8 decibels above the ambient noise level for the commercial industrial properties. And that's during certain increments of time. And I'm gonna, the ambient noise level, I was gonna guess 65, but the ambient noise level is 68. And so those give us specific decibel levels, and then there's allowance of how frequently you can go above that decibel level in a 1 hour time period. Jasmine, do you recall by any chance what that is for this?
Yeah, so what's up there, it's what's permitted by right. There's an adjustment table that our noise section calls out. So for example, if the noise is greater than 30 minutes consistently, it's not allowed in increment. if the noise duration is less than 5 minutes, they're allowed an increasement of 15 decibels on top of what's already permitted. And if it's a duration noise level of less than 1 minute, it's permitted an increase of 20 decibels.
And those timeframes are all within a 60-minute time period. So the bar sets again each hour, basically. It's a little tricky, and it
is.
requires a little bit of science, but that's the pretty standard metric in most cities for measuring decibel. Now, the ambient changes from city to city, and the allowances of how much you can go above that changes from city to city, but that methodology is pretty consistent.
I do have the videos if you guys do want to hear them. It just gives you an understanding of what the regular noise level
What you
is.
thought, what we thought ambient was.
Yeah, and then
Okay.
it tells you what the noise level is with the axe throwing from different areas if you'd like.
Maybe. I mean, if you guys are interested in that, I can go with it. I guess my wonder is, are any of the noises with people cheering? Because I feel like that's the actual differential here. It's not even the sound of axes. It's the sound of the merriment that goes with it.
No.
Okay. Let's hear it anyway.
I'm going to start with it's just ambient noise level without axe throwing. So that's ranging from 58. If I'm not mistaken, it goes up to like 65, which is what the PowerPoint said. 68, actually. The next one is directly behind the axe throwing, the middle of the alley. So when the axe throwing is in place, it goes up to 72.9 decibels.
And 20 is the differential we're looking for.
So the permitted would be 8
Oh,
on top of the ambient noise level. So if your ambient noise level is 65, you're allowed up to like 73
Oh,
by right. On top of that 73, if the increment is less than 1 minute, all at once, then you're allowed an adjustment of 20 decibels on top of the 73. So that would put you at 93.
say that last one. What was it last one? 93.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be shocked if it didn't get close to that with the cheering. Like shocked. Because I can barely, I can hear the axes hitting, and that's getting us from 60 something to,
Yeah, and I think
and that's with no other talking, no conversation, no cheering, no clapping, no nothing.
And if you picked up on that, Commissioner Christian, the location was in the middle of the alley, right? So
Of the alley.
it's that much closer, whereas the first video,
It's
it was
further to
further away, closer towards the corner. So, yeah, so I mean, just
there's
to also give
definitely
you
a
a
art to
perspective
that.
of where that was taken from and, you know, why it read almost 73. But again, was closer to where the noise source is at.
Okay. All right.
Do you have any other comments from the dais or questions?
No.
Okay. So,
Chair, I'm so sorry to interrupt. I was just gonna suggest, I know there was not necessarily consensus on conditioning a revisiting or what we called provisional, even though it's not provisional, it's approval, but for lack of a better term at the moment, but we could condition just a report back. You know, if the commission did approve this tonight, we could add a condition that intermittently staff conduct the same analysis with the noise study or the decibel reader during actual activity, unannounced to the applicants at whatever time we deem appropriate, and then report back at a 6-month, 12-month, or some, and then, then the commission can decide if you really want to revisit or revamp the conditions at that time. Just a suggestion.
I think that's good. I think we can do that and just report back. And I guess if we wanted a metric, I would like to see complaints after the 8 o'clock time. Threshold.
Moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's 3 conditions, I think. The signage, the intermittent test and report back, and then the complaints after 8.
Do you have a time frame for the reporting that you would like? 3 months, 6 months, a year?
3 months.
Okay.
But then that would just be reported by, I guess, the ESPD, right? The calls in, okay. Okay. Okay, so that closes the discussion. Unless you did you?
No, I was gonna ask if we need to do a motion on this, then to receive and file this.
We don't move to receive and file this one, right? Oh, it is.
It's teed up as a receive and file because it was director approval, but maybe
You're
it's,
essentially ratifying, but you can, how do they do that?
So what is the motion?
I would, I would receive and file with the additional conditions as discussed by staff, and assuming those 3 conditions as noted by staff are okay with the majority.
So if I may?
Yes.
I present a motion to receive and file the Community Development Director approval of Environmental Assessment EA 1166, Revision B, Administrative Use Permit AUP 1611, Revision B, with the adjustments and amendments that we just discussed.
Can I make another adjustment?
Yeah, of course.
Sorry. Is it possible when we do this reporting back and the retesting of the noise, just to maybe, I don't know, add it, that we continue to make an effort to be able to get noise readings inside, inside those property lines, just because I feel like that might have been interesting to know.
Yeah.
Contingent on the approval of the property owner.
Yeah,
Of
I was
course.
gonna say that, yeah.
No, we're just gonna ninja over the wall. No, I mean, reaching out to the owners to get their cooperation and residents.
Sorry, and to clarify, would you want something where it would be on the property outside, or you would also seek to get information on whether there's a resident that would allow us access into there?
Maybe if it could be worded as just staff makes good faith efforts to work with the property owner to conduct readings within the residential property, okay.
Yes.
And I'll make sure to get their information before the meeting's over.
Yeah, that'd be great. And I'm done, I promise.
Vice Chair, is that consistent or acceptable to your motion?
Yes, it is.
Okay, then I think we'll take a
Yeah,
second.
so
Second.
And I'll take votes. Commissioner Christian,
Aye.
Vice Chair Inga,
Yes.
and Chair Magai.
aye.
Motion passes 3-0.
That was fun.
Thank you. On to the next item. Revision A to the administrative use permit to expand the indoor and outdoor dining areas and allow the sale of beer, wine, and distilled spirits for on-site consumption at an existing restaurant.
Just want to note, Chair, if I may, this is, like the others, a consent item, so you have discretion just to vote and knock it out on your own, or if you want to pull it, like item 2, you can get the presentation and receive comment and so forth.
Well, can we see, the only way I would pull it if there was a public comment or if the applicant was here. Is the applicant here for this? Or, are you the applicant?
We have the representative.
Oh, okay, sure. Then, yeah, let's pull it. We always like to hear from our business partners. So, yeah, we will pull it off of the consent calendar, and hear a brief presentation if there is one from staff.
Good evening, Chair and members of the Planning Commission. I'm going to present the revision A to AUP 2003 and DDR 2401 for the expansion of alcohol service and outdoor dining design for Jameh Restaurant. The site is located at 239 to 241 Main Street. The applicant is Jackson Kalb, and he proposes the expansion of alcohol service and the outdoor dining design for his restaurant. The restaurant is located in the downtown specific plan within the Grand Avenue District. The site is developed with a commercial shopping center. The restaurant's been operating there since 2018. Restaurant uses are permitted in the DSP. The applicant requests the expansion of alcohol service to the indoor and outdoor dining floor area additions, which require the revision to the existing AUP. And the proposed outdoor dining area addition requires a DDR since the project site is in the downtown specific plan. Food service will be available during the hours of operation of the restaurant, and so it'll take place both in the indoor dining area and the outdoor dining. The floor plan illustrates the indoor dining area and the outdoor dining area additions. The indoor dining area will be increased by 913 square feet, and the outdoor dining area is being increased by 300 square feet. So the total square footage for the indoor dining is 1,868 square feet, and the total square footage for the outdoor dining area is 497 square feet. Staff believes the required findings for the approval of the AUP can be made to support approval for the restaurant. The applicant currently already has a type 47 ABC license, so it would just be a matter of updating the layout and giving it to ABC. The downtown specific plan has new design guidelines, and the applicant has proposed a few upgrades. There are black chairs and tables and ceiling heaters, special lighting, landscape planter upgrades. The existing planters that you could see inside underneath the breezeway have new palm trees being added to spruce it up. It's challenging to have natural plants, so some of the landscaping proposed is faux plant material. The new wood planters with wood trellises that will be used for barriers will have faux plants. So you could see on the top right corner, that's all faux plant, but it's total shade and shadow. Staff believes that the findings can be made to approve the design of the 300 square foot expansion to the outdoor dining area under the breezeway. These are the two required findings that the downtown specific plan has. And therefore, staff recommends that the Planning Commission receive and file the director's decision approving the application with conditions. And that concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions. The applicant's representative is here to answer any questions.
Sorry if we have any questions for staff. It's an open public comment. I'll start with the applicant. Please come to the podium, state your name.
Yes, good evening, Commissioners. My name is Matthew Mello. I'm a senior planning consultant at FE Design and Consulting, and I'm the agent representing the applicant here. There's not much I can really add to the staff presentation or the staff report. We obviously concur with the findings and with the recommendation. And the applicant is very excited to continue operating in El Segundo. This was his first restaurant, and now he has several. So El Segundo always has a very special place in his heart, and it always will have a special place in his heart. And that's why he wants to expand his business capabilities at this site so that he can continue operating here for decades, to come.
Great. Thank you. Unless there are any questions, I'll close public comment. And any discussion on the dais?
I have a question for staff. Is the area that they're increasing a common area with the other tenants of the building?
This outdoor area already had some space that was being allocated for outdoor dining for Jame. So anything else that's happening outdoor is not part of this tenant space.
You read my mind.
So there is a portion that is maintained for walkway. You could see it on the right. It's
Yeah,
delineated.
and I think also it is common in the sense that, you know, other businesses can utilize that area to come and go. But that would be the last tenant space in that location, so the restaurant is actually taking up everything else that's there, so there wouldn't be any other businesses that would be in
And
there.
there's the old dry cleaner, right?
Yes.
So there's no remediation that needs to be done at this dry cleaner?
No,
No,
not that
it's-
we're aware of that.
Okay.
Existing building area. It's gonna be used for a small office and storage area.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think this is a great project. I think James has been a staple here for, you know, at least the last 4 years, but I think, you know, it's been kind of a flagship restaurant for the community, and I think it's brought a lot of good restaurants out here, brought a lot of people to the community, so I think this is fantastic to see it expand. Do we have a motion?
I'd like to present a motion to receive and file Community Development Director approval of Revision A to Environmental Assessment EA 1295 Downtown Design Review DDR 2401 and Administrative Use Permit number AUP 20-03.
Second.
Great, thank you. We'll take roll. Commissioner Christian?
Aye.
Vice Chair Inga?
Aye.
Chair Magai?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you. I did, I hate to admit it, but I did go to leave the El Segundo Bubble and went to the Ospey in Brentwood 2 weeks ago. So it is fantastic. Different price point, but it's fantastic.
We'll ask them to send the sales tax over this way.
The TOT. They got one in Venice too. What kind of Italian.
Okay, so next item is new business. We have no public hearings, but we have new business, the general plan implementation annual housing element progress report. I believe Paul is gonna give us a presentation.
Okay, good evening, Chairman Guy and fellow commissioners. Every year, the city submits 2 reports to the state. The first relates to implementation of the city's general plan, all the elements in the general plan. And the second one relates to the housing element specifically. The reports are due on April 1st, and state law requires that the reports are presented to the city council first before being submitted to the state. We are presenting this report to you. The Planning Commission is part of this overall process and also as part of our public outreach efforts to let people know how we're doing in implementing the general plan and our housing element. On the general plan implementation report, the state law does not have very good specific guidelines on what the contents or format of the report should be. Our city has typically divided the report in 2 main components. One is a report on the development activity in the city and the activity in the community development department. And then the second part of the report goes through each of the general plan elements and has sort of a narrative description of activities over the last few years. So going straight into the first part of the report, this slide summarizes that first part of the report. The Community Development Department was quite busy over the last year, and we assisted over 1,600 people at the public counter. We processed over 1,000 building permits, conducted over 3,500 inspections. In the planning and zoning area, our department received 25 entitlement applications and The Planning Commission held 15 meetings during 2024 and considered, I believe, 16 entitlement cases. Our Neighborhood Preservation Office was very busy and continues to get busier and have more and more cases opened. And that kind of briefly covers our activity levels in the first part of the general plan report. And the second part, as I mentioned, goes over each general plan element. We will briefly cover the first three of the elements in this presentation. For details on all the other elements, they are in the full report, which is in the agenda packet and posted on the city website. So we'll first go into some highlights on activities and projects related to the land use element and the circulation element, and then we'll spend a little bit more time on housing specifically. So for the land use element, we completed a major rezoning that was called for in our housing element and established the mixed use and housing overlays. We also completed a comprehensive update of the city's downtown specific plan, as well as several zoning code text amendments. And this is kind of exciting. We initiated the consultant selection process in 2024 for the land use element update. And kind of a short update on what we've been doing in 2025. We've completed that selection process. Last month, the City Council selected a consultant, a company called MIG. And we are planning on holding a kickoff meeting within the next few weeks with MIG to just get that process started. And we will definitely be working closely with you on this process over the next 1.5 to 2 years, and we will probably solicit your input or feedback along the way. Regarding the circulation element, I'm happy to report that our Public Works Department completed almost 8 miles of bicycle routes, bicycle lanes, and a short segment of a bicycle path on El Segundo Boulevard. That El Segundo Boulevard improvement project, which included more than the bike path, actually won an award this last year. And another major project that was completed was the extension of Nass Street from El Segundo south through the Raytheon property. And that was done around the same time as the Chargers training facility was completed and opened. So moving on to the bulk of our report here, the Housing Element Annual Progress Report. I will cover some of the housing-related activities that we completed through 2024 and go through each of the programs individually but briefly. Good news, the RSI program restarted last year. LAWA took a direct sort of ownership and administers the program directly, but permits within El Segundo go through the Community Development Department. And we received and processed 95 permit applications in 2024. We expect that number to grow over the next couple of years. So there's movement on that particular project or program. As mentioned earlier, our neighborhood preservation officer was very busy. The residential cases were 228, and those included things such as working without permits, property maintenance issues, dumping of things in alleys, and actually cracking down on car sharing in residential neighborhoods was also a big part of our neighborhood preservation officers' activities. The city has completed a lot of work regarding ADUs. Staff regularly updates our website with information on ADU regulations, handouts, and potential funding sources for ADU construction. The staff completed and has completed an ADU fee calculator, which is on our website that property owners can use to kind of estimate potential fees before they make a decision to go into an ADU project. We've also made progress on what's called a pre-approved ADU plan program. And we hope to complete and launch that program, hopefully in the next few weeks. So that's kind of exciting. And all these efforts and programs have led us to issue 23 permits for ADU construction in 2024, which is above our sort of goal in the housing element. We estimated or projected about 15 ADUs per year, but we're above that goal at this time. But we will continue to sort of assess our program and see whether we need to incentivize ADUs further. Regarding program number 4, Inclusionary Housing Ordinance and Affordable Housing Strategic Plan, if you recall, we did have a grant to help us develop an inclusionary housing ordinance. However, we kind of redirected those funds to help us with a feasibility study to determine what the appropriate density levels would be in the R3 zone and in our new overlay areas. With regard to the affordable housing strategy, just as a reminder, we have about 10 policies, programs, and strategies in the Affordable Housing Strategic Plan. The City Council sort of gave us some priorities to focus on, which are shown there, 4 main priorities. In 2024, staff solicited and engaged a consultant to assist the city with implementing our affordable housing strategic plan. We hired a company called RSG, and we are currently working on developing a policy to present to you and to the City Council regarding that first priority there on current residents or employees in the city for new affordable housing. Regarding the subject of urban lot splits, we have essentially completed the work on this particular program. We've adopted an ordinance that back in 2022. We've prepared application guides and regulation guides for residents and developers. However, recently in September 2024, the state amended the law regarding urban lot splits. So we are in the process right now of preparing an ordinance to bring to you, hopefully at your next meeting, to consider amendments to our current regulations. And once we go through that process, we will be updating all those guides, the guides that we prepared afterwards. With regard to program number 6, provision of adequate sites for housing, as I mentioned earlier, in May last year, we completed our rezoning for the mixed use and housing overlay. That included specific development standards, objective development standards for construction in those overlay areas. We completed a code amendment to incentivize inclusion of affordable units in our projects in the overlays. That was basically giving by right approval for those projects that include at least 20% affordable units. And we also completed the downtown specific plan updates. So major progress on that particular goal in 2024. Not a lot to report on these 2 programs. In 2023, we developed a simple database to track development and compare that to our housing element goals. And we, continue to check and monitor on an ongoing basis. We did complete an amendment, a zone text amendment to kind of streamline the density in the R3 zone in 2024. Previously, the permitted density was higher for smaller lots than for larger lots, which kind of disincentivized consolidating properties. With the amendment that we approved last year, we have one density throughout the R3 zone, so that'll help incentivize developers to consolidate lots where that's possible. But we'll continue to work on that and find other ways to incentivize lot consolidation. The municipal code amendments. We had 12 different topic areas to cover in our zone text amendments for the housing element. We completed 11 of those, 11 out of 12 by the end of 2024, and we started the last one that you considered at your meeting last month regarding residential parking requirements. and the city council will be considering and voting on the amendments within the next few weeks. So hopefully by April, we will have completed all our amendments under this particular program. Community outreach. We have a very robust community outreach program, including all of the above listed activities, meetings with and making presentations to community groups and stakeholders, such as our presentation to you today, meeting with the senior board, senior housing board, the diversity, equity, inclusion committee, holding an annual community-wide housing meeting, setting up quarterly pop-up events, and so forth. The Fair Housing Program in our housing element essentially means taking affirmative actions, specific actions to promote fair housing, which means reducing discrimination in housing. To help ensure all population groups have access to housing, know about our regulations, about incentives and services and so forth. So through our outreach efforts, we try to inform everybody about new housing projects in town, about our housing element implementation, any LA County programs or services or funding, and so forth. And that essentially concludes our presentation. I will be happy to take any questions you have for staff.
Paul, the counter activity that you mentioned at the beginning, is that in person or virtual?
In person.
In person.
Yes. Mm.
A lot of people.
Following on from that, you guys are very busy. My question was, though, and maybe that was in the packet and I missed it, is there any measures of whether those levels of activity are increases or decreases and in any particular areas? Overall, I'd be curious. I think specifically, I was wondering about the code violations cases. I was just wondering if that's an increase or decrease. Or...
Yeah, I can go to that slide and then give
Sure.
you some additional numbers on that.
I think it was like 4, 3, somewhere in there. I don't know.
Sorry.
Yeah, there we
Okay, great. We did this report to you last year and the year before, so I have those numbers here in my notes. So the 1,600 persons assisted at the counter, it looks like it was a slight decrease compared to the last couple of years. It was in the 1,700 to 1,800 range last couple of years. We processed more building permits the last two years. And we completed more inspections. So there's a little bit of a drop this year. As far as entitlements are concerned, there's an increase in entitlement applications. We received 22 applications for sort of zoning and planning entitlements the last 2 years, and 25 is a slight increase. And so is the number of planning commission meetings we held, a slight increase over previous years. Now, with regard to code enforcement cases, the number 428 in 2024 nearly doubles the number from the previous 2 years. It was around 230 the year before. Our code enforcement officer told me that a big reason for the increase is what I mentioned earlier in my presentation, just kind of complaints on the car sharing apps and people parking those cars in residential neighborhoods.
That makes up, is that the majority of the increase or?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Wow. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Paul. This is very informative. I like this because it's a nice look back and to say like, oh wow, we accomplished a lot. You guys accomplished a lot this year. Looking back, you know, the downtown specific plan was I remember that being a very lively discussion with a very different makeup of the commission up here. We had, Brenda is here, and I think she's a big part of that discussion, and I'm sure my chair predecessor, Jay, would be happy, or actually unhappy to see the progress on the bike lanes. He probably wants more, but, yeah, the counter activity was one of my notes, and seeing that, 11 of the 12 provisions were considered this year, so I think that we made a lot of good progress. It would be interesting to see if, going back to the previous item, if there's any residential sound insulation that can be done at that property, if they have noise issues with the businesses across the street. I'm trying to recall, I don't know if they have double pane windows or not, but it's an older building.
Maybe something you could consider when staff comes back to you with a report on that.
Right, okay, thank you for that, that's good. But yeah, I appreciate this update. I think it's a testament to you guys and all the work that you guys have been doing all year, so congrats to you guys and thank you for this presentation. Do we just receive and file this? Do we need a motion for that?
Unless there's no opposition, you can approach it that way.
Okay, we have no unfinished business. Reports from Community Development Director?
Only report I have tonight is that the city council will be making their appointment to two fellow colleagues to join you at next week's council meeting. So
Say next week or next month?
Next week's
Okay,
council
good.
meeting, yeah. So you'll have a couple new colleagues very shortly. Additionally, the council approved our proposed contract with MIG to proceed with the general plan land use element update. And one of the things that we will put on the next agenda, I think.
Yeah, we'll shoot for the next agenda.
Next agenda.
Depending on when the.
Or the first meeting in
commissioners-
April. Oh, you know what? I think we wanted to wait for the full body. So probably first meeting in April would be the appointment of a member of the planning commission to sit on the technical advisory committee. So that would be aside from your duties as a commission member, to participate in general discussion, and technical support during the 18 to 24-month process as a representative of the commission. There will also be representatives from other commissions and committees in the city, as well as department representation throughout City Hall, law enforcement, fire. And so this body is really an advisory body. They won't make any actual decisions, but they will give some feedback to the consultant team and to staff as we navigate through the process. And also, we'll be utilizing the body to look for some consensus when there's fork in the road decisions. But then when concrete decisions have to be made, they'll likely go before council for actual policy direction. But this will be sort of a guiding light for us. And so that will be coming before the commission in the near future, just to appoint an individual and probably an alternate if needed. So those are my updates.
Sounds good.
Michael, did you just want to inform them of the zone text amendment that was continued as well to the for the parking?
Yeah, if you want to, go
Yeah.
ahead.
So as you may recall, we brought forward a zone text amendment to continue to comply with the requirements of our housing element. Some of that included the use of the sliding scale for parking requirements for R3. So we took that. The council asked to staff to do a couple minor modifications to that and continue the public hearing. So we'll be doing that. Just to alert you, it wasn't fully what the commission had recommended, as they felt the need to provide some additional standards for larger developments in the R3. So we'll be coming back to them with the final version of that zone text amendment.
Okay, thank you. Reports from the commissioners?
Nothing to report.
I have nothing to report either. There's a report from the city attorney.
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Okay, with that, we can adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everyone.